G'day, welcome to Inside Ball. Well, we have a major sponsor who is a big part of Queensland, who is a big part of the Inside Ball. This episode is brought to you by Kratzmann Caravans.
Oh, we love vanning. Caravanning.
The RV Super Centre out of Burpengary. You should go out there. For over 40 years, they have been a starting point for everybody, Kev, that wants to caravan and go on a motorhome adventure. So you talk about where you go. If you want to start, you just go to Kratzmann. You just go absolutely out there. Their Super Centre out of Burpengary is elite. You can see them.
On the highway, mate. I drive past it all the time going up to visit Caloundra.
Mate, unbelievable part of the world. You're straight out there. You're on the Bruce. It's right there. It's on your right-hand side. And you know what? When you're driving up, it's on your left-hand side. When you're coming back to Brisbane, it's right there. Don't miss their great caravan and RV end of financial year sale. So a lot of you who listen to this, you're thinking, what do I do? Do I buy a caravan? Mate, end of financial year's coming up.
Tax time.
Write it off, however you want to do it. You can do whatever. Find yourself a good accountant. Kratzmann are the people who you need to go and see. Their biggest sale event of the year, up to $20,000 off new and used caravan. Not 5, not 10, up to $20,000 off their end of financial year sale, new and used. They're there. Just go and give them a call. Go and see them. Go out there. Tell them you listen to Inside Ball, and you're a huge chance. Kratzmann's RV Super Centre, just up the highway at Burpengary. Start your journey today. They're proud sponsors of the Inside Ball. They're the first on board. You know what they said? We love it that much. We're on board with you, Kevie. We're on board with you, Ben Dobbin. We're on board. So thank you to Kratzmann, and thank you. Go and see them. Their RV Super Centre, end of financial year sale, huge savings, new and used caravans. Why not start your off-road adventure today with Kratzmann? I can tell you now, they are the best. Don't listen to me. Listen to Kev. Go and see them. They are the best. That's where I'd be saying. Thank you for being a big part of Inside Ball. Let's get on with the show.
Let's go, Dobbo. Okay, welcome to the Inside Ball, our special edition of the Inside Ball. Now, we've had some really special rugby league guests on our show over the time, but this one is not a rugby league guest. He's one of the world's most famous jockeys. His name is Glen Boss. Bossy, welcome to the Inside Ball, mate.
Kevie, this is a treat, mate. Thank you.
Mate, we're so privileged to have you on because, you know, I know how much you love rugby league and we've known each other for a long time, but how much we actually loved your career and you made us famous, and we'll get to that story a bit later in Melbourne. But, look, welcome to the show, mate. Great to have you on. I'm just going to run through a few of your career highlights, all right? I just want to read these out because I want to get this out to the people, how good a jockey you are, mate. Or you were, and you still are, right? One of the most successful in racing history in the sport, right? Racing Hall of Fame, Australia Racing Hall of Fame. Is that Australia or World Racing Hall of Fame?
Australia, yep.
Yep, okay. 1,893 race wins for a total of $180 million in prize money for the owners. That is ridiculous, mate. That is ridiculous. We talk about leagueies and, you know, the salary cap. You know, what's the salary cap? Like $11 million. We're talking $180 million.
Yeah, I think Wikipedia sold me short there. It's about 200. It's about 225 million. I earned my owners over the years. So,
my God.
Yeah, and over 2,000 wins. So,
yeah,
great career.
Wow. Shit. Oh, you know, in league we just talk in small millions. Now, horse racing's a different. There's a lot of money.
Yeah, well, that's not the money I earned myself.
No, I know.
Let's put it there. But
that's what you earned.
That's what I passed on to my owners and trainers throughout the years. So it's a good number.
Yeah, over 90 Group 1s, including 9 majors. Now, I like horse racing, but I'm not a huge I don't follow it. You know what I mean? Yep. So which is the major Group 1s?
Well, we have 4 majors in Australia, and we probably have. Well, we have 5 in a way. Like, you know how they're in the majors in golf, they have the 4, then they call the 5th major the players.
Yeah.
You know, we have that. It's similar to racing. We have the Golden Slipper.
Yep.
We have the obviously the Melbourne Cup, the Cox Plate, and the Caulfield Cup. They're the 4 majors. But then we have the 5th one, which is called the Doncaster, which we call like the players.
Right.
So it's the.
And what about the Everest? It's not.
Well,
is it getting towards that?
It's a major event, but it's not a major race yet. Because
Right.
to get that, you have to have a bit of history,
Right.
a bit of longevity. It will be a major race. But you've got to be very careful when you start talking about trying to separate the great races from the majors, because the majors are the ones, the pinnacle of our sport.
Yeah.
And they've got to have history, and they've got to have great horses and great jockeys win them.
Yeah. So the Golden Slipper's in March or April.
Yep. It's in the
Yep. And then everyone goes to Melbourne for that.
Yeah. Well, we've got. It's funny. We've got 3 of our majors are in Melbourne. But like I said, the 5th one is in Sydney. The Doncaster it's a great race.
Righto. Now you've ridden winners all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, Dubai, New Zealand, Macau, and of course Australia. Have you got apart from Australia?
Yeah.
Overseas, have you got a favourite event or a favourite track that you had some great moments at? We would have had great moments at all of them, but
absolutely, Kevie. I was actually asked this question the other day, and if I could go, when I don't have too many regrets in my sport in my life, but one regret, if I went to Japan and rode. And they give you these 3 months stints. And I did 2 3-month stints there and never went back because of circumstances. But if you learn their language and start to write their language, you can apply for a full-time season there. Right. And then the full-time season becomes like a lifetime. It was the most amazing experience of my life. To ride in Japan and live in Japan, I would have, for any young guy out there or girl, to aspire to go overseas, Hong Kong is great. I lived in Hong Kong for quite a while, but Japan was just far better experience. I wish I'd done it properly and lived in Japan.
Why though? Give me some reasons why you think it's better.
Well, number one, I love the culture. I love the people.
Yeah.
I love their racing.
They're very loyal people.
Oh, they
love their racing.
It's just different breed they are. But their racing is so big, and the fans really embrace you for who you are, not just because of the money. They actually are real racing fans.
Like idolise you, like
my
a
God,
rock star.
They turn up with placards, and walk around the closure. They've got your name and photos of you.
Are there barriers between you actually meeting them? Is it
no? After you win a race, you sit there and you sign away. Yeah, especially if you win a big race, there, you'll have to give the fans a good half an hour of just sitting there signing for autographs. It's amazing.
What about the next race?
Yeah, well,
if you win, you normally go there for one big race.
Yeah, they'll set times aside, because what happens, they'll have 12 races on a Saturday and a Sunday, and you stop for lunch, and through lunch you'll go and sign stuff and get amongst the fans, because that's what they turn up for. So
okay, that's
like you said, that would be one place I wish I'd done longer and better.
Yeah. So what was your big wins over there? Which races were they?
Oh, I didn't win any Group 1s there, but I won a stack of races. I broke a record for the shortest amount of time to win so many races there as an expat.
Oh, right.
At one point.
Wow. What's the most winners you've ridden in one day?
In anywhere?
Anywhere.
5.
5 and
yeah. So that was
that must be a great feeling, eh?
Yeah, sometimes you get on a roll, as you know, Ken.
Yeah.
In sport, sometimes things just click, and you don't realise it's happening in front of you. It all seems too easy, and you just seem to be in that zone and winning races.
Something comes up when you study at you and you look at you on the internet, which is a great tool. My wife has done all this together. We did it together. One of the things that stands out about you is your confidence. Yeah. And you used to bluff the other jockeys. You'd walk in your $5,000, $10,000 suit.
Not that much, but
well, it was an expensive suit, right? And you'd walk in well dressed, and for a bloke coming from Bow Desert, that they wouldn't have a suit store in Bow Desert back in the day. I'm tongue in cheek.
Yes,
but
I know.
You bluffed a lot of your wins, didn't you? Because not bluff, but you put out confidence. Oh, hey, Jesus, this bloke's on today. How are we going to beat him?
Yeah, but it's a funny thing, Kevie. I was a real and let's not take away. When I was with the Broncos and I was brought into the inner sanctum a lot, so I was a real studier of human beings, especially athletes and the good ones. And I would always observe what they'd done. And what I did observe, picking out the best and the greats, right? Whether they be tennis players, footy players, whatever it was, the best were willing to go further than everyone else. They were committed to go further. When people wanted to quit, they said, well, I'm going to handle the pain and I want to go somewhere else.
Yep.
And that's what separated the best, the good from the greats. So I was always prepared to do that. And when you say you go and bluff people, it's one thing to say, I'm going to walk in the room and I'm going to bluff you. But if I haven't got the fucking tools, I haven't got the tools to back this up, it means nothing, right?
No.
I could say, Kevie, I'm going to go in and I'm going to beat you today. And you can see it in my face, I'm in trouble here because this bloke's got me.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have the weapons
to
back that up,
people just like, oh, God,
Bluff.
go away. Boss.
That was a bluff.
Yeah.
But so when you say I bluffed them, I didn't bluff them. I knew I could go in there and beat them at any time. So.
And you backed your horses too, didn't you?
Well, I just backed myself. Confidence. And
do you think a horse knows when you get on it? Like
they understand, they feel your biorhythms. You know, the horses are like big dogs. They understand. They can feel everything that you are. So when you get on and you're in a really groovy place and you're confident, they feel, okay, this bloke's got me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm confident because he's confident, right?
Yeah.
But I always felt that, and people always perceive confidence as arrogance. But there's a part of it, you've got to have a little bit. You've got to have that in you.
Yeah.
But don't be,
as long as you control
don't think that I'm an arrogant person because I walk in there and I know I can beat you. You know.
No. Well, I don't see that in you. But
no,
but
the confidence part is much bigger. But people these days perceive that confidence as an arrogance, and they completely get it wrong.
No. Well, when you're arrogant, that's when you start to lose, and you get it wrong. You get too far in front of yourself, and that's happened to so many great sports people. They get too big for their own boots, and people bring them down, mate. Sport's a good leveler. If you think you're too good and too smart, you get leveled pretty quickly, and that's the beauty of all sports.
Correct.
Right. Now, you're born in Bow Desert, right?
Yes.
How was your childhood, mate? Was it fun?
Absolutely. Like my mum and dad separated when I was very young from Bow Desert. I would have been, I think I was about 6 when we moved to Caboolture, and we were mixed farmers, you know, cattle, pigs, all those chickens and all that. So I grew up in that environment, farming.
Hard
work. Oh, man, you're up before, you know,
sun up.
Parent, the animals didn't get fed by themselves, so you're up you had to feed them and do all that stuff before you actually did your own stuff. And went to Caboolture primary and high school, and listen, I had a great upbringing. Rode horses every day, farming. I never thought
you taught yourself to ride, didn't you?
Well, basically, I was a bit self-taught. An old stockman first taught me how to ride when I was about 5 or 6. So, and he taught me the basics.
What's the basics? Tell me.
I never had a saddle for the first couple of years.
Right.
No, just ride bareback all the time.
Just the reins and
just the reins in the saddle. But I thought nothing different.
No feet stilts or anything?
Nothing at all, mate. No stilts because we had no saddle. So I used to this was fun for me.
And how old were you?
5, 6.
Right.
So I had no...
Were you scared?
Oh, God, no, never scared. No, loved it. You know,
really? I'm scared. I'm not scared of horses, but like to me, they're a beast that I got so much respect for.
Yeah,
an animal, and I just feel like I could never. I've been on those jockey. I had a bad experience.
Did you? Yeah.
You know those trail rides. You know where you can go and hire the horse. Well, these horses, they're smart, aren't they? I was only, I don't know, about 14 or 15, and we went as a few mates and whatnot, and not even been with the family. And then so we get on this rail and we're sort of trotting with them, and then we've turned around like we're heading home, and they knew.
Yeah,
the horse
correct.
Just took off on me.
Yeah.
It just took off, and I'm trying to, you know, all these little instructions, pull the reins, all that. It did not stop. And I'm thinking, oh, no, this is going to end in tears, but it just rode home.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to duck a bit because it under branches and stuff, but it got home. As soon as it got to home, it just stopped.
Yeah.
And said, get off, mate. You know, basically, get off. That's you done.
It knew it had control of you.
It knew. Yeah, it just knew.
It's a frightening place when you've got no control, mate.
I had no control.
Yeah.
Oh, get me out of here. But luckily, it ended nice. And from that moment forward, I thought, oh, wow. These jockeys, they're bloody good, I tell you. Anyway, you left school in year 10 and you went to how'd you get into actually being a jockey? How did that
It's a good story, Kevie. And, you know, everyone's got a story about, you know, how they got into their genre and and some have got spectacular stories and some have got some boring stories, and where mine sits, I don't know. It's somewhere in between.
It'll be spectacular.
But no, I was on a summer break from our school with the 2 weeks off, and we were up in Gympie at my grandparents' farm.
Yeah.
And my grandmother used to love going to races. She loved to bet, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just her and I. She said, would you like to come to the races? And I said, mate, 100%, because I used to love hanging out with my grandmother. So
yeah. So how old were you? 15?
Yeah, 15. Halfway through grade 10. So I went to the races one day. We drove in to Gympie race course, and where my grandmother drove in, it was down near the stockyards at the top of the straight at Gympie. And lo and behold, I jumped out of the car because I could see the horses were on the track. They were racing.
Right.
And I ran across to the outside fence to watch the horses go past me, you know. And like, if you've ever stood like 5 metres away from 12 horses on the ground moves, right? It's just this real noise. It's like a freight train, and the noise, the speed that went past me, and I was just like, wow, what did I just see? You know?
How good.
That was a Saturday. I went back to school that week, quit school, told my mum I'd quit school, and I was back at Gympie within that week or two and looking for an apprenticeship.
Right.
My grandmother introduced me to a trainer, a bloke called Terry Chinner.
Terry's still alive?
Yes, Terry's still alive, and he took me under his wing, and that's where I started my apprenticeship. So in a funny way, Kevie, it was almost like it chose me, that moment.
Yeah.
Because I made my decision right then and there.
The sound of the horses running past you, the noise, the excitement.
I loved horses. I was intrigued by the animal. And I was always I loved speed. So just to see it at a ground level, and it just captured me, and I thought, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Because you played rugby league was one of your sports you
I
played
loved,
as a kid.
caboolture snakes.
Cricket?
Yeah, cricket. I wasn't much at cricket. I loved rugby league. I really did. As a kid, the caboolture snakes were very successful schoolboy team, you know, and I was never going to be a rugby league player, but I loved it.
Loved the game.
I loved the technique of it. We had a good coach, and like he taught me how to, because I was very slight, obviously. I was about 45 kilos, but he taught me a good technique of how to tackle, you know. And it's funny, as a 15-year-old kid, you can still remember that when you get it right in a tackle.
Just a clean tackle.
Just a clean tackle, and it didn't take much effort. And I'll put a bloke on the ground, and that's what I remember those moments.
Okay, that's funny. We had Tony Carroll on the show a few weeks back, and he said exactly the same thing. And he's one of the great tacklers, as you know, of all time. Right, that's brilliant, mate. So your first year, you rode 60 winners in 10 months.
Yeah.
Geez, you would have been good. That would have been a lot of fun for you.
Well, it was amazing, Kim. You know, like, I started my apprenticeship, and you're like a deer in the headlights. You just don't know where you're going, and
you just do whatever.
And you're having fun, right?
Yeah.
All you're doing is having fun. I rode only 10 months of my first year because I got shifted down to the and I won the seniors title and the apprentice title my very first year. I bashed them up.
How all the old jockeys, they handled that?
I had them all
You were
stuffed.
a bit cheeky with them, weren't you?
Yeah, I had them all stuffed because I was relentless, you know. Like, I'd go out ride 4 winners, like, constantly every weekend.
Yeah.
3 winners, 4 winners, double. You know what I mean? I seem to fall into it very quickly.
So I'm going to take you back a little bit there. A rugby league apprenticeship is like 20. You start when you're 5, and you get into grade when you're 19, 20 if you're elite. So you walk in as a 15-year-old, right? When will you start riding in a proper race?
About six months later.
6 months later, and you
kind of learned your trade. You know, I could really ride, Kevie. Like, I went through the pony clubs, eventing, show jumping.
So you knew you had.
Oh, listen, I could ride a horse, and I knew horses instinctively. Like, Kevie, I've told everyone in my whole life, I was never a great jockey. There's far better jockeys than I ever was.
Well, this would not suggest that.
Yeah, but I was a very good horseman. I could understand the animal.
Well, isn't that what jockeys do? Like, they're horse.
Yeah, but some are great jockeys, but aren't great horsemen. You know,
right? They just haven't got that. Bit to get the horse going when you need it.
Well, they just don't.
Is that it?
They don't understand the animal. I understood the animal intimately. I knew how they felt. I knew their responses. I knew how to get the best out of them. So I had this intimate relationship with a horse because I grew up with them, and I studied them, and I was with them every day, you know. So, so I smashed in that first 10 months, and then Graham Ireland, who was the steward up there at the time, God bless him, he's passed now, but he recognised I was a diamond, very rough diamond, but if I had a bit of polish, I might go somewhere. So he got me indentures transferred down to the Gold Coast, and that's where...
In the stable down there. Who'd you go to first down
Kay
there?
Tinsley, who I just seen on Saturday. Kay's good man, Kay and Chick. So that's where...
So you moved to the Gold Coast. That was
moved to the Gold Coast.
A huge move.
Oh, mate, I've never been to the city in my life.
Yeah.
Country kid, never been to a city. So Gold Coast, and that's where it all started for me, really.
Well, how long were you on the coast for? Not long, eh? A couple of years?
I got down there when I was about 16 and a half, and I stayed there till I was 22 because I finished my apprenticeship and then was going into the senior ranks, and that's when I went down to Sydney.
Yeah, because I remember the first time you met Alfie. I was talking to Alf about this story. It's at Melba's nightclub. Yeah. We would have been down there with the Origin team, I reckon.
Yeah, I think you were.
So you were barely 18, and Alfie carried you out of the nightclub.
Yeah, Paul Allen was...
You were obviously a big-time jockey on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, I was doing really well, and Alan loved to punt, somehow we met and we just clicked.
Yeah.
Just clicked.
Well, Alfie's like that, isn't he?
Well, yeah, he's been my best mate, and like yours, Kevie, my best mate throughout our lives, and best man at my wedding, and I love him like a brother.
Yeah.
You know, we talk a lot. We talk probably 2 or 3 times a week, but we just clicked this night, and Paul Allen used to run the nightclub, and he'd give me drink cards all the time. I'd tip him horses and stuff like that, so I'd never pay for a drink. So me and Alan started. We were drinking Bacardi and what was it? Orange juice.
Yeah.
Something in orange juice.
Vodka and
orange juice.
He loves vodka and orange.
Oh, vodka and orange. He put his finger in and swirling around, and we got blind, and he ended up carrying me out of a nightclub.
You made it home safely.
But then we invited him up to go to the Broncos games, and that's where our friendship started.
Oh, it's been a great
and that's
friendship.
where I met you at the same time, you know?
Yes, mate, of course. Now, so you did your time on the Gold Coast and had great success there. Then you went to Sydney.
Yep.
90. What did you go? 94. You moved to Sydney,
Yep.
and then you got your first Group 1 victory down there. That must have been a special feeling for you as well.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
remember that? You remember it?
Oh,
Obviously.
absolutely. A horse called Telesto in
Yes,
the
that's the one.
Warwick Stakes. In that Chippy Norton Stakes story. Yeah, he was I mean, Kevie, it's like winning. Group 1s are like getting in the top 4.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got a chance to win the big one,
The big
right?
one.
The big
Yeah.
one. So they're the ones you aspire to win. So to get that first one, it was sort of like validation because I hadn't been long in Sydney, and I was riding for the greats all of a sudden. TJ's and Gay was there coming up through, and Bart Cummings.
So you're starting to mix with a few big.
Oh no,
big hitters.
all these guys have put me on, you know.
Yeah.
And so when you first Group 1, it's validation that you belong here, and then all of a sudden the confidence starts to grow.
So when you go to Sydney, like you get in rugby league world, you get signed by a Sydney club, contracted. Did you get signed by a trainer or someone, or you just made the move and tried to get the right? Did you have a manager or someone who lines up your rides?
Nope. It's you just flying by the seat of your pants,
Wow.
Kevie, back then. But you were so driven, like you just knew this is where you had to be.
Yeah.
And
Where'd you live in Sydney?
we lived at Kensington first.
Nice. Oh, okay, right near the
racetrack
Randwick.
at Randwick. And but I was just so driven and knew that this is where I had to be, So you kind of never dropped the ball at any point, You were learning your genre, you were making yourself better, trying to, And once I got to Sydney, like I said, that's where I started to really find my feet and blossom,
Yeah, it's a different place, Sydney, isn't it, to anywhere else in the world as far as everything, rugby league, horse racing. I mean, it's a brilliant place.
Well, the
do you
greatest
enjoy?
jockeys.
Do you enjoy living in Sydney?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I felt very comfortable there. I was working hard and getting results.
Yeah. And do you hang around with all the other jockeys and stuff? Or
I never really did. I had one. I was very close to a couple, but
who were they, mate?
Well, Corey Brown and I were very close, and still are these days. But I didn't really dine with him or anything. Other jockeys.
Yeah.
Corey was probably the only one.
Yeah, because you've got to keep your distance a bit.
Well,
they're all chasing what you're chasing, so.
Yeah, cutthroat business. Most of my great mates were other sporting people.
Yeah.
Doing other things.
Well, I remember a lot of times you at Broncos games in Sydney when we used to come down, so that was. And I used to room with Alf, and every time the first thing he'd do,
bastard.
first thing he'd do, we got to the room was ring you. Yeah, bossy, I'm down. What do you got there? Yeah, come over. So
Come
it was
have dinner
great
on a Thursday night.
That's
and
right.
Then we head out and
because we used to play a lot of Thursday nights, and then you'd ride the next day, didn't you? Saturday, yeah, of course. 95, you won your first golden slipper.
Yep.
Jimmy Cassidy was suspended, was he?
Yeah, this is a great
Are
story.
you mates with Cassidy?
Very close.
Right.
Really close, and always.
So he'd be dirty on me this one, would he?
Oh no, he was dirty on. He wasn't dirty on me. He was just dirty on the moment.
Yeah.
How he got put out, and he shouldn't have got put out, and there was a lot of politics going on. And I got the late call up to ride Flying Spur in the 95 Golden Slipper.
Yeah.
And he was a weird colt. He had so much potential, but he had a mind of his own. And I remember Lee Friedman legging me up, and he said, "Bossy, he'll do one or two things. He's got the ability to win, or if he's off, he'll just run last." That's what sort of colt he was. He said, "By the time you get to the barrows, you'll know what."
So that was the first time you ever.
I'd never seen this horse before in my life.
You knew about it, obviously.
Just watched a few videos of him.
Yeah.
And did, but really,
You do that as prep, like when you're a rookie like that.
back in the 90s, it's a VCR, right? So,
yeah.
But really, I didn't know much about him. So, but what he told me, and I didn't quite get what he said to me when he told me that. I was going, okay, whatever, you know. But he said to me, by the time you get the barrows, you'll know what colt you've got.
Yeah, right.
I'm going, oh, good on you, Lee. So,
thanks for that.
But by the time I got the barrows, I knew what he said. This colt, he went there he was on a mission. He had a bit of purpose about him. He went there like, holy fuck, he is game face.
Right, he's ready to go.
And I knew, you know what I mean? I knew he wasn't there to muck around. He really wanted to be there to win. So I remember saying before the race, behind the barrow, I said to one of the boys, this horse will win the Golden Slipper. And they said, God, you dickhead, you know? And
so you knew when you're in the barrow, you're waiting for the ching.
He just gave me this feel. Right. Yeah. And that was the first time in my life that I'd ever got that moment. And that was the one that I knew I chased that moment for a long time.
Right. So it's a 1,200 metre race, right?
Yeah.
So what's your plan there? Do you go hard early? Do you pull back?
Yeah.
And then finish strong? Did you have a race plan?
Oh, yeah, definitely had a plan. He drew one. So my plan was...
Is that a good barrier to draw?
For sure it is.
Right.
I just rode the fence and it was in the right spot, and you wouldn't believe I got a split at exactly the right time when I needed it, and I come out and I beat a horse called Octagonal.
Oh yeah,
everyone knows Octagonal. Yeah, so and that was my first major, Kevie, and that was the one that put me in the stratosphere. You know, like you obviously can remember when you won the first seconds after you won your first premiership. Yeah, it's an incredible experience, right?
It's amazing,
and it's almost a lonely experience at one point because you reflect on all there's a moment of reflection where it's your life's work.
It is, mate.
It's your life's work, and it comes down to this moment, and then so you have this bit of a reflection moment, and then there's then the noise comes, right?
Yeah,
and then you just get swept up in all this noise and emotion, and you with your boys. It's quite an experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it's magic, mate, magic. And
so that's what
you've explained it really well there. Yeah. But to experience it yourself, and you know, I could, and you did it. Nearly over 2,000 times.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people don't get to experience that, Kevie. You know, that moment, because it's your life work comes down when the horn went. You know, that's your life's work in that moment.
Yeah,
and it's when you reflect back. You know, this is everything I wanted to do. This is, you know, obviously winning Origins and that is a big thing. But you know, as a player, as a kid, you want to win a premiership with your team, with your mates, right? And you work your ass off to do it. So when I won my first major, that was the moment, and then you go, wow, now I want to recapture that moment. I'm going to work harder now. I'm going to get better because I want to do this again.
What's next? Well, you did it again. You started riding a lot in Melbourne then, didn't you?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. You know, won derbies, and you know, I really was on my way really quickly. You know, like Kevie, I was very fortunate. I was able to associate myself with the great trainers. And when you do that and you put yourself in a position to be on good horses, because these are the guys with the good horses, right? So you've got to continually put yourself in the position to be in the right place at the right time. And everyone said, oh, boss, you seem to be at the right place at the right time. Yeah, that was not through...
It's no fluke.
You know,
it's not fluke.
You align yourself with these people and you work hard and do all the right things and keep trying to improve your genre. Just keep on improving. And they kind of watch you doing that.
Yeah.
So then they'll give you an opportunity because...
Yeah, they start to trust you and get a bit of belief in you.
You can get the job done, yeah.
There you go. So was 98, when was your first Melbourne Cup ride? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was in the late 90s. It was for Gay Waterhouse.
Yep.
It was a mare called Electronic.
Right.
I won the Metropolitan on it that spring, and they took her down there, and she was never going to be good enough, but she was in the race. But I remember that, Kevie, I hadn't done a lot of riding at Flemington, but I remember standing there. We all get introduced to jockeys, and we stand there, and they play the national anthem, and you know, you're one of 22 or 21 standing there, and you're looking up at this great grandstand full of people, and you think this is it, you know.
I'm on.
This is the moment.
That's the grand final, isn't it? For all jockeys.
It is our grand final. Yeah, it's our best race.
Yeah.
I mean, it's our greatest race. Sorry, the Cox Plate, it's our best race, but it's our greatest race.
Yeah,
it's going to be watched through hundreds of countries throughout the world.
Yeah,
an audience of probably 600 million. Yeah. Like, you know, we're talking about Olympics. This is a big event. So this is when you're sitting there and you listen to that, and you go down to the barriers and you hear the noise when they say the last one's gone in, and you hear this fucking noise come down, you know, and then you go, wow, this is what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, you made and you know this story, but I'm going to share it with our. In '98, we won the grand final of the Broncos, and you're, obviously a huge part of our team. I'm going to say you were part of our team.
Well, I'm actually part of the 13. Remember they give you that jersey?
That's right. Yeah. Anyway,
so proudly we're the number 7.
We went to Melbourne, and no one knew who the Storm were. That was the first year the Storm were in the competition, but sort of nobody knew who the Storm were much either. Players, it was all about the AFL, and we had our little tent. I'll call it a tent. Gordy describes it on your podcast as a Bunnings tent or something, all the other ones in this great marquees, in the birdcage. And we weren't getting much attention. We were just having a few beers. And then the start of the Melbourne Cup, the actual gates were right in front of our tent. And you've come past on your horse, Champagne, and we yell, "Hey, Bossy! Yeah, go, Bossy!" Because everyone's yelling out to all the jockeys. And you've turned and saw we were there because you knew we were there. And you give us a high five. "I'll see you back there, boys," And all of a sudden, everyone around us said, you know Glen Boss? He said, yeah, he's part of our team. Oh, and then the tent started pumping after that because you ran second in that race.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I was more excited to see you guys because I was actually riding in Hong Kong at the time, so I hadn't seen you boys for a while.
Right, yeah.
And it was excited to see you lads. And
how's the feeling going down the like to the Melbourne Cup? You're going down the straight. The noise must be like deafening,
Yeah, you're normally locked away, Kevie. You don't really hear much. It's surprising how quiet it is. When you're in the barriers and you can hear you can hear the caller saying the last one's coming. The noise starts. It's like a tsunami coming down the straight, and then you sort of get really. But then you kind of the barriers open, and then everything just goes quiet.
Yeah.
You're just locked in.
You get into your focus.
Yeah,
and
you
what
really
have to
need.
do.
You need to.
You obviously get nervous.
I used to get nervous. I love
like Alfie used to throw up and stuff. Were you anything?
Not really.
What's your preparation like before a big race? So you haven't got time in between. A lot of time, have you? You got about 30 minutes or so. Would you? If you win one race and then you got to dismount and do all the stuff that you have to do. Not even that.
We have a 10-minute window that we have a quiet space. Sometimes 8 minutes because by the time 30 minutes, you come back. There's 5 minutes after the race. You dismount. Then there's another couple of minutes. Then you get back. You have to weigh out. You know what I mean? And then you've got to be out sort of 12 minutes before the race.
Right.
So our window is very short. No, it's very short.
You don't get much time to think.
Not really, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you can overthink.
Do you talk to the other jockeys?
Oh, there'd be a little bit of banter going on, because especially before the majors, it goes very quiet, And
they're all you're sort of looking at each other and
they're kind of locking in. They're doing their last bit of their checks and things like that to make sure they've sort of. But I was always really calm. I can always remember being just loving the moment. Just really into that moment.
Yeah.
And I kind of stumbled on something years ago, Kevie, and I don't know how I can't put my finger on it, how I stumbled across this. I was really nervous before, I can kind of remember I was really nervous before a big event one time. And I was a little bit I was trying to control my nerves and I was on the favourite in a good race. Anyway, I just happened to go to the bathroom having that, that nervous piss,
Yeah.
Anyway, I looked into the mirror and I said, "Bossy, fuck, just relax, mate. You've got this." And then I felt this real calmness come down over me.
Right.
Because I looked at myself in the mirror. Like I really looked at myself. I said, "Bossy, come on, mate. What are you doing?" And I walked away and went, "Fuck, that felt like a trigger. That actually felt like a trigger then."
Right.
Because I just felt this calmness. And I went out and I completely executed. And it was pure.
Right.
And I thought,
one of those days, eh?
So I stumbled across this thing. So what I started doing before majors, they'd call the riders and everyone would get up and go. So I'd walk into the bathrooms and I'd say, look myself down the barrel and I'd say, "Bossy, you know how good you are. You know you can execute. You know how you can do this job, and you know you've got the right horse." Wow. And I'd say the last thing I'd say to myself, and I'd look myself down the barrel because you can't look away.
Nah.
If you're bullshitting to yourself, you can't lie to yourself. And the last thing I'd say now, "Bossy, relax." And this calmness would come over me every time. I get goosebumps talking about it.
Geez,
so I kind of stumbled across this, my trigger.
Yeah.
And I'd walk out there and I'd be in the zone, in this state, so relaxed. But I'd hear voices, but I wouldn't hear a word.
Yeah.
I'd see faces, but it'd be blur.
Oh.
And I'd walk out and say, "This is what I'm doing," and people look at me and go, "Fucking have a look at this bloke." And I'd get out there and I'd be on the horse and I'd just be in this place And it felt too easy, Kevie, sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
when you get in the zone.
You didn't use any energy.
No.
Because all you did was see, react.
Yeah.
There was no thinking involved.
No. Well,
but that gets back to
it's
what I was
all
saying
muscle
before.
memory with you.
Well, that's
well,
right.
you
That's
know.
what it gets back to what I was saying before, Kevie. If you haven't got the tools, you don't get into this spot.
No.
Because I can say to you or someone else, you know, yeah, do all these things and find that zone. But to get into the zone, you've got to have the tools.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to do it. You know, it's like, Kevie, like you're a kicker, right? And you've practiced from the sidelines. 40 metres out, sideline, the bell's gone, you know?
Yep.
But and people go, oh, fuck, this is a big moment. But hang on, you've done this 1,000 times in practice.
Well, kickers love that. JT.
That's what I mean. Joey Johns told me that.
Joey Johns.
He said, Bossy, I've done that 1,000 times. I was waiting for that moment.
They want the big moments,
They wanted that moment.
Yeah.
Or you had to do a drop kick to win the game.
Field goal,
you know what I mean? So I was actually waiting for these moments because I knew that
You're
when
ready
I got
for
the moment, I'm the man.
Yeah,
I could
ready.
do it, you know? So I loved it.
Now, it hasn't always been plain sailing for you. You fell off a horse at the fall in Macau.
Yeah.
That was a bad one for you.
Yeah, that was a real bad one.
You nearly ended up in a wheelchair, didn't you?
Well, I nearly died. I was so lucky, Kevie. It was a weird night. It's Macau, riding on, it was a midweek meeting. And I was only over there on holidays. I was basically just mucking around.
Oh, right.
Playing golf, riding a few horses.
When someone rang up and said, can you ride this horse for me?
Well, I was over there to ride, but it was basically a working holiday.
Yeah.
For Gary Moore, the son of the great George Moore. Anyway, I was in this nightmare, and you know those rainstorms they have and storms they have in Asia, like mate, they're massive. Lightning, the raindrops are like tennis balls, and we are in the barriers on I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday night, on a dirt track,
right,
and the rain was coming down the heavy. There was furrows already been in from the sand,
right.
So, and we literally can't see 10, 15 metres, and I'm in the barriers, and I had this moment. I thought,
this is scary.
This is not safe. This feels bad. This feels bad to me right now.
Yeah.
The barrier's open. My foot hit the side of the barrier, and my foot almost come out of the iron. And so, like, I'm balancing on one side, like I'm 4 or 5 mil, and I'm trying to get my foot back into the iron
while you're right.
while I'm pushing. So, and that was fine while I was pushing because all the weight was really not on my feet because I'm using my hands and doing that. But as soon as I grabbed my horse and I'm trying to get my toe in, all the weight transferred slightly and my foot come out of the iron. And obviously I've got wet weather pants on a wet weather saddle. So, paint and leather on paint and leather. I just hit and slid off straight away. And I landed on my shoulder and my head went that way and I knew I broke my neck straight away. Oh. So I broke my C2 and I was conscious. This is what saved my life. So when I hit the deck, I heard the crack straight away and the heat come really fast. And I said to the boys, I was only about 250 metres after the start. The boys have obviously come from the barriers, rushed down to see me because the race is already running, right? And I said, boys, don't touch me. I've broke my neck. Please don't touch me. And so I got my helmet off. And they put me in the back of a divvy van and basically took me to the hospital and had to put the neck brace on, obviously, and just put me on a board and covered in sand and dirt. But what I was then I went to Hong Kong to get operated on and put the halo brace on. Yeah. And Julian Chang, who was one of the greatest neurosurgeons, he's right up there. Yeah, right. Proper neurosurgeon. He was in Hong Kong and he operated on me. Wow. And I was later to learn that, because I broke my C2, which is a really weird bone. It's got 2 wings off it and it's at the base of your skull. And I broke it through the body and I broke one wing off, which is already off now, but I'd fractured the other. And he said if I'd moved my head 10 degrees left, right, up or down, I would have turned what was a stable fracture into an unstable fracture and I would have severed my spinal cord. He said you got 5 minutes because that controls your breathing, your heart and everything. Everything. But yeah, they call it the hangman break. So when people hang themselves, that's the one that kills them. That's the C2 and it stops your heart, stops everything. So I was very fortunate that I was conscious. Yeah, and you'd be able to tell them, just don't touch me. I never moved. How long was the... It's one of the... might sound like a silly question. No, they go and stop the horses because where they pull up... They stop them? Yeah, they had to stop the race because where they were coming around, I was where I was lying on the track. So they... And you can imagine it's pissing down rain. Yeah. I'm lying there, covered in dirt, and I knew I broke my neck and pretty scary place. But anyway, we got through that one.
Any life lessons from the fall? Like, did you
Yeah,
learn?
absolutely. It changed my whole life because I was kind of rushing through life, riding good winners and kind of just so focused, and all my energy was put into one place, just winning races and being G-boss. And I was quite kind of, what can you say?
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I
then?
had the kids, yeah. So it was kind of like, it was Bossy's world, but people lived in it kind of thing,
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to be a little bit that way to be.
But
you felt it was too far one way.
yeah, it was. I kind of wasn't enjoying the moments. I was winning big races and I was on the next straight. I was straight away on the next moment. It was too fast, and I wasn't recognising and being in the moment. So I kind of made a conscious decision to go back to what got me into riding. It was fun, enjoy it.
Yep.
Because there was a moment there where I could not have been. I was number one with my family again. Would have been dead. Not here to enjoy those moments. So I kind of turned my life around at 180 degrees and said, okay, let's go back to what it was all about. And it was funny, Kevie, because when I made that conscious decision, when I got home, like neurosurgeons, you probably shouldn't ride. And
so that you did the surgery.
You had the surgery, had the halo brace on.
And then you went back to Australia to recover.
Went back to Australia to recover. And
in Sydney. You're living in Sydney?
In Sydney. Told by numerous people I should never ride again. I said, fuck that. Come on, mate. This is my life. This is what I do. I come back to riding, and I kind of just was a different person. I really just enjoyed it. Didn't care if I didn't ride another win, Kevie, I couldn't give a shit.
Right.
But I was just going to enjoy it again.
Enjoyed just riding horses and being
I'd
competitive.
become so relaxed and happy about it all.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just started to click. And
how was your first race back from that? Were you? Did you did you go back to your routine of the mirror and?
Well, I was a little bit nervous because I'd muscle wasted a bit, and like I was kind of, and I come back very quickly because I knew I had this very good horse called Republic Lass, who I rode in the autumn, and she beat Northerly in the autumn, and she was going to be my pin-up.
Right.
She was going to bring me back to where I was wanting to be. She was one of the favourites for Melbourne Cup. She was in the market for the Caulfield Cup and the Cox Plate. So she was a proper horse.
Yeah.
So I rushed myself back, knowing that she's going to be the girl that takes me back. And I'd spent best part of 3 years with this animal, moulding her and getting to where I wanted to be. And she was going to be a superstar. So she was my focus, and I wanted to come back and get back to the heights, and she was going to be the one that was going to do it.
Righto. The question here that we had for you, you certainly did change your approach, didn't it, to everything that you were doing?
Yeah, it did. It made me a better person for sure.
Yeah, and a better rider, obviously, because
it made me a better rider. Yeah.
Next up, you're at the Melbourne Cup, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, what happened, Kevie? Republic Lass went wrong with me. In that preparation, she bowed a tendon, and I was gutted, right? And I ring up David Hall, who I used to go do a lot riding for. I won a derby for him, won a heap of good races for him, and I rode Fantastic for him the year before, who ran 5th. So I rang him up and said, mate, you wouldn't believe me, great mare, good mare. She wasn't a great mare at that time, but she was a good mare. I said, she's gone wrong, and I haven't got me pin up now. He said, oh, don't worry about it, Bossy. These things happen. He said, you can ride Fantastic, who you ran 5th on, and he's a very good stayer. He can run well in the Melbourne Cup. He said, or you can come down and ride this mare I've got, a mare called Makybe Diva. And I went, oh, yeah, right. So he said, I want you to come down in the next couple of weeks and ride her track work. I want you to ride her in Caulfield Cup. She's only got 51. And I want you to see if she's good enough to run in a Melbourne Cup. Anyway, so yeah, that's how that
So when you remember
association.
the first time you met her? Do you remember the first time?
Like it was yesterday, Kevin.
Right. Yeah,
incredible experience. Like I said, I'd ridden some amazing horse flesh at this point, like some of the best in Australia, but I hadn't really ridden a champion at this point. I was still searching for that champion, but so this is how it goes. I get down there, Flemington. It's about 5 a.m, dark.
So Monday or Tuesday, what is it?
It was a Tuesday before the Caulfield Cup, and I'm down there talking to David Hall. Anyway, he brings this mare out, and she's a big, tall, rangy.
Yeah.
She kind of looked like a coat hanger, but they draped the sheet over it.
Yeah.
You could see this big frame, but no muscle yet. But it was there. You could just see. Anyway, she walks out, and you go 2,000 metres on the Flemington course proper. So you start off going 3/4, you get a cantering, then you get to 1,000, you start doing your 3/4, which is 15 to the 200 metres. We call it 15 to the furlong.
Yeah.
That's 3/4 speed. And then when you get to the half mile, he said, start increasing your speed. And he said, by the time you get to 200, I want you nearly at top, but make sure you got plenty in hand.
Yeah.
So, Kevie, I get on her, and I trot her up, and I start cantering, and I went, oh, geez. Straight away, I went, this is pretty efficient, this action that this horse has got. Like, she was just covering the ground very quietly.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't no noise. That's the first thing you got me, no noise. Because normally they have a da-dum, da-dum.
Yeah.
It was very quiet. I went, oh, this is pretty cool. Got up to 3/4. Like, this is incredible. I'm going 15, but I feel like I'm going 20 to the furlong. Like, it felt like I was going so slow, but I'm actually counting. I'm going 15. This is ridiculous.
So what sort of kilometres per hour would you be doing there?
So you're up doing about 40, 45, 50.
Right. Shit.
And she's doing it so easy. So then I get to the sort of 600 and I start testing her, giving her a bit of speed. So we're getting up towards 60 kilometres an hour, you know what I mean? Going on to 65 kilometres an hour. And I'm going, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I'm literally going so quick, but it felt like I'm going so slow. Like I really lost a moment there.
Yeah.
But Kevie, like I said, anyway, you get on these good horses and they can all run fast, right? You can understand that. They can all run fast. They've all got good strides generally, but she's a bit better. But I was more interested in what they do after they gallop, because
how quickly they recover and stuff.
Yeah. So what happened? Yeah, because that's when you find out that you got the athlete. So I finished a pretty strenuous 2,000 metre gallop. She pulled up 600 metres after that gallop, and she took two of the biggest, deepest breaths. Like, she just expanded her lungs.
Right.
And under the saddle, I felt her heart rate start to drop really quickly, and her breathing come down within 10 seconds.
Right.
And I went, fuck.
That's a machine.
No, honestly, her aerobic capacity was incredible. Yeah. I trotted back. She'd gone pretty quick on the clock. And David said, she's pretty good, isn't she? I said, mate, you have no idea. This is the best horse I've ever sat on. And that was the start of the journey.
Yeah, right. Well, it was a great journey for you, mate. Three cups in a row. Wow.
Yeah, well,
that hasn't been done before, has it?
No. It'll probably never be done again. I hope to see it, but I don't know. Because logistically, do that 3 times in a row in a handicap race.
Yeah.
To have an athlete.
So she would have started, first race, she would have been one of the lighter horses?
She had 51 kilos.
Right.
She ran 4th in the Caulfield Cup. We knew we had the right animal.
So sorry, the Caulfield Cup's obviously before the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
So you rode her in the Caulfield?
Yeah.
And what was your feelings after that?
She was a superstar. She drew.
So you were getting set for the Melbourne Cup, obviously.
Yeah, she drew the outside barrier in the Caulfield Cup last. I rode her last, and she just ripped home around 4th. And I said to Tony Sandick, her owner, and David, I said, this is the right one. And she had 51 kilos, and all we had to do was just do the right things by her. And I was lucky enough to give her a really good ride in that Melbourne Cup. But I had the right animal and the right athlete underneath me, because when I say Kevie, she had incredible turn of speed. She had turn of speed like a sprinter, but she could do it over 2 miles.
Yeah, right.
So I could sit longer and longer and longer and just sit there and pick my way through a field. And then when I let her go, she would go from that to top speed within 2 strides. Like, it was just
amazing, eh? Yeah.
Incredible. So, and she won my first Melbourne Cup. So
how was that feeling, mate?
Oh, this is out of control. Like, it's
coming back along.
Yeah, just as soon as you pull up, this is your life's work. This is everything that you dreamt about doing. And you think about this amazing athlete that's underneath you that just delivered you your first Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
But the journey wasn't over.
No.
Just
the start, mate.
Well, like I said, she was just this big frame, Kevie, and you could see the muscle was coming. Like, when I first got introduced to her, she was probably about 460 or 70 kilos. By the time she finished, she was 540.
Right.
Like, she's a beast.
100 kilos.
So she got stronger and stronger. The second year, she met Vinnie Rowe. She had, she beat him the second year.
Pouring rain that year.
She smashed Vinnie Rowe. And then she come out and we set her, like, she had a great autumn. And then the spring of 05, we set her to win the Cox Plate, which, like I said to you, it's our best race.
Yep.
It's not it's between the Melbourne Cup and the Cox Plate, there's nothing between them. They're the pinnacle of our sport.
Yeah.
One's our best race and one's our greatest race. The best race because it's the best horses. And so to call her the champion, Lee Freeman was training her now.
Yeah.
He said, "There's one race we need to win, and we need to win the Cox Plate.
Right,
We've
so
won 2 Melbourne Cups. Let's not worry about a Melbourne Cup this year. Let's just win the Cox Plate, because then she will become the best."
Yeah.
You know, spoke about like the Kingston Towns and that.
Yeah.
So she had a great prep. She won my first Cox Plate, and she won the Cox Plate that year. And then we tossed and turned whether we were going to run her in the Melbourne Cup because she had 58 kilos.
It's a bit over Cox Plate is how far away?
10 days.
10 days.
Yeah.
Right.
So we had 10 days to, and we really never made our final decision. And everyone thought we were playing games. We weren't.
Yeah.
We never really made our final decision until Saturday, Derby morning. We galloped her on Derby morning.
Yep.
And she just was at her best. She was peaking and
right.
Because we didn't want to take her there to run second or third. We needed.
We
really wanted to win, Kevie. She'd done everything for us.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Cox Plate was what we set our target, and she accomplished that for us. So to run her in the third Melbourne Cup with 58 kilos, like she's gone from 51 to 58 in 3 years. It's a big
huge jump.
Huge jump. But she was up to the task, you know.
You hit the lead with 300 to go, and then just unstoppable.
The whole world stops. Then Kevie is ridiculous.
Now you knew you were going to win.
Yeah. I was so fortunate. I give her a great ride, and
that wouldn't happen too often either, would it?
Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. Like, this is a moment. This is goosebumps stuff, and this is a moment where I think that I've only gone, and maybe Huey Bowman, maybe on Winks when he won the fourth Cox Plate, but when I unleashed the shackles and she just
took off.
She just gave me that turn of speed, and with 300 to go, like I could hear the crowd. Like, it's funny, Kevin, you know, when horses gallop, you know, when they're at top speed, they're in their 60s, you know, you're going quick, and when their first foot hits the ground, it's called change of speed, because what happens when their first foot hits the ground, they actually slow down by 2 or 3 kilometres, because it's just that, and then when they
go again,
then they kick off with their hind legs, and that's the speed again. So it's this little. So in that moment, we're talking a milli of a second, right? In that moment, you can. So when you're going through the air, the wind's coming, and then in that moment, you stop, and so you get you hear that. So also, I could hear the call in that moment. In that moment when I hit the ground, breaking stride, I could hear the call, and I can hear the crowd. So because I had like literally 30 seconds or 35 seconds, or maybe 25 seconds of that, and it freaked me out, because all of a sudden I'm not concentrating on what we're doing at the moment.
No,
she's going to win. I could feel this. I could hear a call, and I could hear the crowd.
Good,
because the breaking of stride was so quick. It was all matching up.
Yeah,
it was incredible. So and then she went
crowd favourite, wasn't she?
Like 120,000 that day.
Must have been a lot of pressure on you too. Did you?
I could just trust it. I just knew I could get the job done. I knew I had the athlete underneath me to deliver. And my job that day, Kevie, was to not disappoint her. That was my only job that day. Just make sure I got the first part of the race right, and the rest would just take care of itself, and not disappoint her. Yeah. Make sure I was in.
So when you say get the first part of the race right, what do you mean by that?
Well,
like position and
just
where?
Say a lot of races I break down into thirds, 33 and a third. The first part of the race is probably the most crucial part. The first third. You must execute and be very positive and sure about what you want to do, and execute. Get that part if you can get that part of the race right, the rest will
Sets
take
up the next.
Yeah, well, the next third is about
no different to league. You know,
yeah.
If you start right.
The forwards have to set the platform right. Yeah. The first 30 minutes of every footy game, your forwards set up the platform right. Yeah. They go through the grind, and then the second rowers start to do their thing. You know, you start to come into the game, right? Yeah. And that's what 100%. I mean. So it's no different for that. So you get that first part right. The second part's about feeling, rhythm, doing everything. You get them in to make sure they're relaxed. You're doing all the right things. And then the next third is when you really come on board and you start to scan and make sure you want to be in the right place. And like I said, with her, I could wait longer. And like I said, when I unleashed her at the 300, it was all over.
All over, mate. All over Red Rover.
These are moments that...
Now, these are your trophies here.
These are the ones. These are the kids.
These aren't toys, are they?
These aren't toys.
This is real.
Real gold, yeah.
Real gold.
That's real gold. So, it's probably the most iconic trophy in Australian sport. It's the silhouette of that is you know, you can recognise it straight away.
Straight
right?
away.
You
This
know.
one's a Tuies, though. The Tuies Melbourne
Yeah,
Cup.
the first one was 03 was Tuies, and then I went to Emirates for 04 and 05.
Do you get free air travel Emirates wherever you go, mate?
I wish I did, but no, I didn't. But yeah.
Well, surely when you're the Melbourne Cup winning jockey, like the benefits, that must have been a great. Like,
Your life changes.
Yeah.
Your life changes.
It'd have to.
Yeah, your life changes. You walk to the beat of a different drum.
And did you enjoy, like, after it? Like, you see all the vision of, you know, you go and have a party at the casino or wherever with all your gang as such, you know? That's what happens?
Yeah, you do. You have a big night, but then you've still got Thursday, Oaks Day, and you still got Saturday. So you kind of in check, you know. But, like, Kevie, when you're so fit and you're ripped, you can't hurt yourself.
No.
Like, you can have a gut full of piss, and next day you're up having a run.
Well, the feeling, that just the emotion and the adrenaline from winning what you did, it must be tough even getting back on a horse after you've won the Melbourne. The next.
I have a story. When I won my third Melbourne Cup, like, you're spinning, right? It's just a spin, right? And you get in, you do the press conference, and next thing, you're being legged on a horse. And it's like, and behind the barriers, and everyone's going, "Well done, bossy, bossy." I do not remember riding in that race.
Right.
To this day, I've watched the race and still don't have no recollection of even memory of riding in the race. I think I even won a race after the Melbourne Cup.
What the second?
And had no recollection of actually riding in it.
Right.
But you do your job, right?
Yeah.
You're there, but I still
zone,
had no
mate.
recollection of it, yeah.
So she's still alive, Makybe Diva, yeah.
I've gone and seen her. I call her my mum, you know.
Where does she reside?
She is at an incredible property that Tony Sandick owns down at Geelong.
He's the owner, yeah.
Tony's a great man.
Tuna man.
Farmer, one of the biggest in Australia. Very wealthy guy in his own, successful farmer, fisherman in his own right. He's got an unbelievable property down there called in Makybe, obviously. And she resides down there, and she's 26 now, and she looks, you know, like a teenager. She's still a very healthy girl. Yeah.
And I think, is she helping people with disabilities or something?
She's quite a unique animal. She's a gift that keeps giving. She's a special animal. She's quite sensitive animal, and so she's helping out with kids and that. And at the moment, which is
amazing, huh?
Yeah, it's incredible.
All right, your career, like you got 3 cups in the cupboard. Here they are. Here.
Yeah.
I might take. These are worth.
They're worth a motza.
A motza.
Yeah,
so
just in their gold alone, they're worth a lot.
We've got our security here to get them out back into the car, mate. That's amazing. That's amazing. Right, but you won the cups, but you still keep going, mate, with your career.
Oh yeah.
You're flying. 2008 Golden Slipper.
Yep. I was over in Hong Kong riding.
And come back again?
Come back to riding in Slipper. I ended up winning. What have I won? I won 7 Doncasters. 7 Doncasters. So 4 Cox plates.
4 Cox plates. Is that a equal record? Is it, or is that?
That's an equal record.
Yeah, with Winks rider.
Huey and Brent Thompson.
Oh yeah, okay.
We're the 3 that have won 4 Cox plates.
4 Cox plates. Shit. Johnsy and I and Alf went to a Cox plate. A few years back. Oh, we had a great time.
Yeah, I know.
We had a great time.
In the Ladbrakes plate. What was it?
We're in the Ladbrakes. Yeah.
Was it one of the Winks ones or not?
Yeah, I think it was Winks.
I think it was one of the Winks. Yeah, I seen you down there.
Yeah, having a good time.
Yeah, I know, it's a great time.
Thank you. Yeah, there it is. 2009 Cox plate. So you think?
Yep.
What was your other Cox plate winners? Do you remember?
So Makybe was my first one. Yep. So you think?
That's 2004.
Yeah,
Makybe.
Ocean Park. And then Sir Dragonet was my last one. That was in COVID.
That was your last one, yeah.
That was my last one.
And that was your last year of riding, wasn't it?
It was the second last year. Basically, yeah, before I retired.
And you had another shoulder injury?
I had a bad shoulder injury. I had a bad fall, and I've got a couple of plates in there with 16 screws. They'll stay in there forever. That was a little while ago. That was more than a decade ago.
Jockeys are tough, female and male. They're tough. You're tough hombres, aren't you?
Yeah, Kevie, we're proper athletes. People shouldn't underestimate us. We train as hard as anyone else.
So talk me through it like a week. Like, so those big race meetings. If you got the race on the Saturday, you've raced the following Saturday. Do you race midweek?
Yep. Yeah,
you do.
A lot of them ride 4 or 5 days a week.
No, would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, as you get older, I suppose you can be a bit more choosy on.
Oh, not really. You're riding a lot. It's a weird dynamic. This is how. Okay, let's just put into some perspective. Just say
Let's go to the big carnivals, right?
You're going towards a grand final, right? And this is what Longneck says to you. He says, you're playing on a Saturday, right? He says to the team, righto, boys, Thursday, you're going to have a coffee and you're going to go for a sweat and you're not going to have much to eat today. You're going to lose probably 3 or 4 kilos. Ooh. You'll have a light meal Friday night. Saturday morning before the game, you're going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're going to go for a run. You're going to have a coffee. You're not going to eat. Ooh. Now, I want you to go and perform for 80 minutes in a grand final.
On that?
Nothing in it. And you'd say, fuck off.
Yeah, I can't do it.
You'd say, no, I can't do it. You'd be fatigued. You'd be tired.
Yeah.
You'd be angry.
No energy.
You wouldn't.
Where's your energy?
And you wouldn't do it. You couldn't be at a level. But we do this. This is what jockeys do all the time.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's how fit we have to be to overcome those situations because, we're malnourished. We're dehydrated, and we're asked to perform at this very high level on horses and make very quick, conscious decisions. You know what I mean? Yeah. Honestly,
100%.
This is what we have to do as an athlete.
Yeah, but so you'd have a weights program as well.
I train. I had a personal trainer. Yeah, you'd train your ass off. You'd have a very strict diet, very clean food, not a lot of alcohol.
Yeah. What about running? Do you do a lot of running?
Yeah, a lot of running, swimming. I used to love boxing, stuff like that. A lot of aerobic stuff that where you wouldn't build muscle, you'd actually.
Right. And as a ex-leaguey player and coach, so players, for me, the most important days out from a big game would be the last 3 days.
Yeah.
Is that similar for a jockey, or you're probably getting? So you'd have a 2 or 3 day prep into the big race.
Yeah, through the spring and the autumn, your time management would change because every other time of the year, you just ride and go through it. But spring and autumn, when you know that the big events coming, you'd have that mentality that you'd be Thursday, Friday, Saturday that you're building towards something. Yeah. So very similar.
Yeah. So it's tough being a jockey, isn't it?
Oh, mate, it's so tough. People just don't give us the credit that we deserve, you know.
Yeah, and we've seen so much success recently with the female jockeys.
Oh my God, yeah, they're so good.
I listened to you speak up at Alfie's Christmas get together last year, and I was fascinated what you said about the female jockeys and why they are so good.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, I've always been a great studier of the animals. I'm a better horseman than I was a jockey, and as I can recognise that women with horses are a completely different dynamic. Because what happens with men, instinctively we want to control that animal. You know, we walk into its space, we're the boss. So we're going to tell you what to do and you do it when we do it. And the animals sense that straight away. Yeah. Right? They understand they can feel our biorhythms. Like, fucking who's this bloke walking into my space? Yeah. With women, with girls, oh my God, can I pat you? You know what I mean? They walk in with totally a completely different agenda. They want to, oh my God, you're beautiful. I love you. Can we work together?
Yeah.
And the horses just sense that straight away. There's no forcing of it.
Right.
It's just, can I be with you? With us, it's a completely
different.
It's a different setup. So they get on with the animal instinctively better, and they can seem to get a lot more out of the animal doing a lot less. You know what I mean? They're not forcing it out of the horse. They ask the horse to do it, and the horse just gives it to them.
Now, you won the Cox Plate on Ocean Park, and you just believed that you were always going to win that with the horse.
Yeah. He was a special colt. He wasn't the best colt I'd ever rode by far, but he was a colt that if you give him a bunny to chase, he would defy anything. Like, he would defy himself sometimes. He would defy the clock to beat what was in front of him. And I remember when I rode him in that Cox Plate year, I come in the turn about 6 wide, and the 3-year-old Chrissy Muntz had kicked away and looked like the winner. But I angled my colt towards him because I knew if I stayed out there, he would have lost sight of the bunny.
Yeah.
So what I did,
to get him to look at the bunny.
I actually angled my colt and run him towards him because I knew as soon as he got near him, his ability to try to pass, his will to win would click in, and that's what happened. He shouldn't have won that race.
No.
But as soon as I started taking my feeling surge, and as soon as he got towards that colt, he wanted to beat it. So that's just knowing animals, I suppose.
Now, you said it's difficult. This is your quote, mate. it's difficult to describe. Every sinew in your body is on fire, right? This is such a great racetrack, of course it is. Such a great atmosphere. The crowd gets behind you and you can feel them. My body was like a volcano inside. The adrenaline, that's the adrenaline of when you hit the front and you just know, I've got this.
Yeah.
You go past the finish line and the crowd there.
Oh, it's an incredible feeling, Kevie. I mean, it's difficult to describe because not many athletes will find that place in their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like if you've... Okay. For mine, a scenario is if you've trained for 12 years of your life as a kid and you have made it to the Olympics and you're standing on the blocks, it's got to be pure. To run 9.2, to win, to beat the field, every moment has to be perfect. Your preparation, everything has to be very consciously perfect to get that result.
Yeah.
And when you get the result, you understand what you done.
Yeah.
It's the moments that no one's seen. It's a very personal experience, and that's where all the emotion comes from because it's the stuff that you did that no one's seen to get that perfect moment.
You know,
the sacrifices, and so that's where I say all the sinews because it's quite an experience that when it all comes together.
I could just imagine, mate. Like unbelievable. One of my favourite nights with you celebrating.
Oh, plenty.
Was in Melbourne. We were in. It might have been 2012. Down there with Alf and Janine.
Yes.
Myself and Narelle. And we went to what at the casino? They went to Chinese.
Yeah, we went to Silks.
And you had your Melbourne Cups.
Yeah. It was Cup night.
Yeah, it was.
It was Cup night,
right?
Because remember, you was all down there, and I wanted because look, Kevie, I've been part of Alan's journey. You know, like he's invited me into his space.
Yeah.
You know, when you've won your grand finals. And even Origins, he's asked me. You know, been
come in, mate. Yeah.
So I've always admired him and he's brought me into his space, and I thought I had to compliment it somehow. Like,
mate,
come into my world after a Melbourne Cup, and he enjoyed that night because we celebrated in Silks, and that was Melbourne Cup night.
We went after Silks. We went into Warnie's. What was Warnie's?
Something 19.
23 was it?
Club 23. What is it?
Yeah, Club 23.
That's right, Club 23.
And I just remember you getting hammered. Like,
we were flying, weren't we?
Not hammered, but hammered from all the people just loved you, because obviously
we had a great night that night.
That was fantastic, mate. Unbelievable. But just the popularity of you, and normally, if you're around Alf in Brisbane, well, he's the man. But in Melbourne, well, you're the man wherever you go. But down there, it really stood out to me. Like, wow, look at this guy. Sensational.
Yeah, but it was good that Alan and even yourself seen that side of it because I was always with you on your journey, like getting invited into the Inner Sanctum, and I felt very privileged to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And
well, that was a special night for us, mate.
Yeah,
so
it was a great night for me too.
Now, 2015, you're in the Australian Racing Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Big moment for you.
Yeah, that's great. Because you don't set out to do these things.
Yep. A kid from.
Yeah, a kid from Caboolture and never finished grade 10, and all of a sudden, you're in the Australian Racing Hall of Fame, and I'm still riding at the time, so that was a huge privilege, because some great people have on that list.
Yeah, 100%, mate.
Yeah.
You've won the Everest as well.
Yeah, the year before I retired, I won the Everest and the Golden Eagle.
You're 50 years of age.
Yeah, I'm in my 50s now. So
no, at that time.
Yeah. So pretty cool experience. Kevie, I was riding in Singapore, and I'd had enough, and people asked me, why were you leaving at Singapore? I said, there's two races in Sydney. Collectively, they're worth about $25 million if you win them both.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to win them both. And I did.
You greedy bastard.
No, I did. I come back and won the Everest and the Golden Eagle that year. I know you say things and
unbelievable,
off the cuff, but it worked. That time.
Well, mate, you did just throw it out there to take the Mickey. You were serious.
Oh, serious, 100%.
And you did it, mate.
Yeah, very serious. Lucky I had Chris Waller in my corner, and he provided me with those moments.
All right, 2020 Sydney Cup.
Yes,
Cox Plate again.
Another Cox Plate. Yep.
Sir Dragonet.
So that was a weird experience. So this is COVID, and can you imagine this, Kevie? I'm standing in the barriers, Cox Plate, 8, 9 other runners, and I can hear the birds flittering around the grandstand, and I'm going, what the fuck.
Yeah, what is going on?
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to hear the roar and the noise.
And the horses would know that too, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it was just weird, right? And the next thing, the barrier's open and you're in a race.
Yeah.
So you're locked in. And then I go past the winning post and I scream out and the noise hits the grandstand and comes back and goes, oh, man, this is just, this is surreal,
crazy.
right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, even with league, I remember playing.
Yeah.
Not me playing.
We're
but
the only things going.
Yeah, league was they got it out of the ground and you could hear all the calls of the teams on the field. It was just crazy. You once said, "I just can't believe I'm here because an uneducated buffhead who didn't finish grade 10." You said that, so you must be really proud of your career and what you achieved from. Did you ever think you were going to get to where you got to?
Was
there always belief?
I was always striving. Listen, you always have goals and you strive to be the best. And I wanted to be the best. I really strived to be the best, and worked very hard, Kevie. Worked really hard.
Sacrificed.
Nothing comes family time. Sacrifice. You sacrifice a lot, and it's quite selfish a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you don't really reflect until you retire, Kevie. And yeah, I am very proud because I set out to do things like that, and I achieved some pretty cool things in my sport.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's regrets. People who say there's no regrets are bullshitting. That's the first lie they've told themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have regrets.
Yeah.
But things happen in life for other things happen. But so yeah, I am very proud of what I've done in my professional career because it's
it's amazing.
Yeah, you could if you did half of that, you'd be pretty happy.
Righto. Some quick questions here. 9 major Group 1s. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favourite?
Yeah, the third Melbourne Cup.
Right.
Yeah, that's
just gold, eh?
Yeah, that's just gold.
So that's your favourite race as well?
Literally, that's just gold.
That's gold, all right, baby.
The Cox Plate is absolute my favourite race.
Righto. And you've won that 4 times.
It's a race that it's very special.
Is there a horse that you thought you didn't ride that you really wanted to?
Oh, yeah, I Black Caviar. Geez, I would have loved to have felt I rode her. I felt her power one day on track work, Kevin. Right. And she's the fastest horse I've ever ridden, right. And most powerful horse I've ever ridden, but I would have loved to have ridden her under race conditions. I was set to ride her one day in race conditions and it never happened. But
what happened there?
I galloped her one morning and I didn't know it was her, Kevie, and I thought I felt another champion, but I think she tore a pectoral muscle after the gallop and I was supposed to ride her in the Manicato, and because she had 51 kilos. She was 6 from 6 and I never got to ride her, but by far the most powerful athlete I'd ever sat on in my life.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Just amazing, eh?
Oh, incredible.
You got to experience it. Right. Now, I know you jockeys, you're all big famous people and you get to hang out with all the celebrities. Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Oh, I had breakfast with Sheikh Mohammed one day. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've met King Charles.
Right.
Met him.
Personally met him?
Yeah, and had a very good chat with him.
Where was that at, mate?
At Flemington.
Right.
And when you get a sense when you meet these people, their time is poor and they've got to move on. I never got that. He sat there and eyeballed me and had a chat, and you felt that he was quite happy to stand there and chat for as long as he wanted to. It wasn't, I've got to rush off, shake my hands and you got 10 seconds. It was quite a good conversation.
Okay, that means you've actually met 2 kings. You've met Wally Lewis as well.
Yeah, I've met Wally, yes, and the King Wally, what a great man.
Prince Alan, hey?
And the Minister for Entertainment, Alan. But he was my idol. And I've told him this. I said, when I grew up, he was my idol and he was my best friend. I idolised him. And I get emotional sometimes when I talk about him because he's such a great human being. And you know that.
Yeah.
You are like brothers. And I'm privileged to call him a mate.
Beautiful. Righto, a couple more to go and then we're done, mate. Did you have a hero growing up? Someone you looked up to and aspired?
Yeah, Greg Norman when I was a kid.
Was it, eh?
Yeah,
okay.
Because he was.
You would have met Greg over the years.
I met him once and
played golf with him?
No, which I did. But as a kid, he was the doyen of Australian sport and his charisma. Malcolm Johnson as a jockey was probably Jimmy Cassie were really the blokes that I kind of really loved.
Yeah.
Their swagger and the way they did things.
Yeah, and you're obviously still good mates with a lot of jockeys now.
All of them, mate. I don't have any that I'm not mates with, so very close.
I had a sliding doors moment, but that would be when you broke your neck. Would that be the big change in your big moment that changed who you are as a person and a jockey and who you are today?
I think that's the biggest moment. Yeah, I've had sliding doors moments, but I think that's the biggest one. Yeah.
Right, and Kratzmann Caravan support that they're one of our sponsors.
Yeah,
right?
good.
So we want to. Have you ever been caravanning?
No,
as a
and
kid?
but it's something. Well, I had a show where I did called Bossy's Bucket List, where we went around Australia in a Winnebago.
There you go.
So that was
how good is that?
That was fun, mate.
That would have been
with
fun.
all the football boys.
Yeah,
yeah.
How good.
Michael Crocker come along for the ride.
I've seen vision of that on the internet.
What a great human being
you took these in the caravan too, didn't you?
And Ty Keneally and we had a heap of boys.
Oh, that's right. How good. So your favourite holiday destination, where would that be in the world?
Oh, Queensland. Anywhere in Queensland, mate. I just love it up here.
Because you live on the Goldie.
Live on the Goldie, but mate, if you cut me open, it bleeds maroon.
Yes, mate. Got the Origin coming up, mate.
Can't wait.
And you loved your footy too growing up, didn't you? I mean, you loved the Broncos, Origin.
Loved it.
As I said back earlier in the podcast, we'd hit Sydney and the first person that Alfie would ring would be you.
Yeah.
To get you over, and used to come in for meals, and then you'd race the next day. And it used to be funny when you're riding in the slippers.
Yeah.
Because that was Saturdays, and if we were playing on a Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, my, there's so many stories there to talk about.
I know.
But it was just, we obviously, Alfie and myself and all the Broncos people loved having, people from different sports and elite people in particular. It's great to form those relationships, hey,
Yeah, I used to love watching Benny. Like I said, I just love studying people.
Wayne Bennett.
Yeah, Wayne Bennett. And
right.
I used to love watching him, and Alan would be going, "Whoa," just before he'd go out, he'd be, and he'd go up and he'd put his hand on every one of his, wouldn't he? He'd very quietly just...
That didn't say much before a game.
He'd actually put the trust... Yeah. Like he trusts you to go and do this job, and it meant a lot because he was like your father.
Yeah,
he had that sort of presence. That
swagger
in the room.
about him. Yeah, he's a good coach, mate.
He's a great human being.
Yeah,
he's a great human being, which made him a great coach.
Yeah, certainly. So now that's you finished riding now. So you got your own podcast, and you're doing a lot. Still in the industry, aren't you?
I am in the industry. I do a lot of stuff with Ladbrokes with their content.
Yep.
I still talk to the boys and girls, a lot. I got my own podcast, which you're going to come on, Kevie.
Yes, I'll be on there in a couple of weeks.
I can't wait.
Who's the best jockey at the moment, you reckon?
Oh, James McDonald by far.
Yeah, okay.
We got some great talent in Australia.
Best female jockey?
Jamie Carr.
Yeah. She's talented, eh?
Yeah, she's different, She's got the ability to go if she wants to and wants to stay in the industry.
Do they reach out to you much, those jockeys? They would, wouldn't they? Just little tips.
I talk to them every now and then, yeah.
Like in a mentoring capacity?
If they've got a problem they can't solve, or if they've got something they want to, they're struggling with, I'll have a chat.
Because there wouldn't have been anything in your racing career that you wouldn't have faced, whether you're crook on.
Yeah.
All sorts of things can happen to jockeys in between races. I'm sure you would have experienced it all.
Well, if they're struggling with something and you can impart a bit of information that they get straight away, because you understand the industry, and that they can get it instead of struggling with it for months or days or whatever it is, and you can give it to them, they get it straight away. I think that's, if you don't impart that information, you're doing a disservice. So
Righto, mate. Well, look, we're very blessed and privileged to have you come on to the Inside Ball, mate. We love these.
Yes.
That's only just a minor reflection of your magnificent career. And you're a bloody Queenslander. We love that.
I love that.
Origin's coming up.
Can't wait.
And the big carnival's coming up in Brisbane as well. So you'll be involved heavily in that. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We loved having you on, mate. Always part of the Broncos family, the Queensland family. And thanks for coming on, mate.
Like I said, Kevie.
Now, you don't go home empty-handed, mate. What we have got for you, we've got an Inside Ball T-shirt.
Beautiful. Right. I'll wear that with pride.
With pride. And also, we're going to get all of our special guests for a dinner at the Caxton one night. So you come up.
The Caxton.
Alfie will be there. He runs the Caxton. He'll be there.
Yeah.
All right, so keep
five more songs. 5 more songs.
I think it was 6 more, but we'll go with 5.
6 more? Six more songs, that's right.
Yeah, but you got...
Sold him short.
No, you didn't, mate. Good stuff.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much, mate.
My pleasure, my man.
There we go.